afternoon. Thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Dairy farming is a key part of rural economies. In Vermont alone, dairying is worth $2.2 billion. It keeps our lands open and working, and it's a major part of the Vermont brand. But as most of us know, dairy farmers are struggling. Many are getting paid less than what it costs to produce the milk. In an effort to find solutions, Vermont's Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets held a two-day summit in northern Vermont in early April. To learn more, we've called on Vermont Secretary of Agriculture, Anson Tebbetts, to be with us today. Thank you for coming in at a familiar place.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So, in your words, why a summit and what did you hope to achieve?
Well, we had to bring everyone together because of the economy for dairy. It's no secret. It's not been great. It's been this way for 4 to 5 years. So we tried to take control of this a little bit on our own within our borders. What was exciting about this particular summit, we had about 150 dairy farmers that were able to attend over the day and a half. It was real. It was raw. And folks were talking about how can we change the dynamics within our borders.
Right. And it must be difficult to look at the numbers because in just 2018, statewide, more than 8% of dairy farms went out of business, several hundred over the last decade, 400 or so. That's really tough. What's, just in a nutshell, what's happening?
Well, the issue is we're in a global and a national economy when it comes to dairy. We just have too much product out there. And when there's too much product, there's too much milk on the market, it lowers the price. And what's different about this particular situation is farmers have had cycles before, and they're usually 3-year cycles. So they may go up, and in a couple of years they're down, and then rebound in the 3rd year. What's different about this one is it's been stagnant or below cost of production for many of our dairy farmers going on the 5th year, right, which is not somewhere we want to be.
Exactly. And so let's hear from a farmer who sold his cows this year. Chris Wagner of Green Dream Farm in Franklin says it wasn't 1 year of low milk prices that forced him to reconsider dairying. It was 4 straight years of low prices. Wagner now boards cows as a way to generate income. He and his family are mulling their options.
If milk prices recovered to a point where we thought it was worth getting back into milking, that's an option. We did transition the farm to be organic, so it'll be certified organic, and that's an option as well. I think if there was a potential buyer, we would consider that as well. I think our goal is to make sure we take care of our creditors, and that's going to be difficult because the facility itself has a certain value on the balance sheet, but it doesn't have that same value in the market. When you talk about the community, I think that's something that goes along with it. You're going to be starting to lose the value in these facilities, and some folks may not care, but it's certainly things that we've invested our lives in.
What's next for you? What's your plans moving forward, Chris?
Hard question to answer, though. I guess what are you going to do next? I mean, it would be, when you're doing something like this for as long as I have, or since you're so immersed, I just hope to push the clutch in a little bit, I think, for long enough to decide, I think. But yeah, it's a pretty difficult situation to just get up and change. If we decided we wanted to move from where we live, then we'd probably be really actively looking at what we're going to do and where we're going to go. But my wife works in town as a veterinarian, and she's not looking to change. Our kids are in school, so yeah, we're not planning on just up and going. I got thrown more curveballs in the last couple of years to make myself wonder if it's the thing that I want to do if the markets don't really change and give us a good future at it. So while I loved it and continue to love it, it's not something that I would do without some soul searching, I think, at this point.
We want to thank Chris for his willingness to discuss a very difficult and personal issue. Anson, so what came out of the summit that might help hardworking people like Chris stay in business?
Well, what was great is that Chris was at the summit, so he was there. And the last time I saw him, he was having a conversation with one of our goat farmers that's established here and then selling goat's milk to Vermont Creamery. And that was one of the things that came out of the summit. Vermont Creamery is undergoing an expansion. They are looking for more goat's milk to fill a need to make goat's cheese. Now, we're not saying that's going to be the answer for everyone. What we tried to achieve here is we want to give people options. We want to give them choices to explore different things. Maybe Chris could convert his barn, his infrastructure into goat farming. He was having a nice conversation with the other goat farmer that's in Randolph at this time, and it's about 300 goats. People think the model is now. He's got the land. The challenge will be some of the infrastructure will have to be changed if we're going to convert some of these cow dairies to goats.
Diversification seems really key, and at this summit, this was farmer-driven. You didn't have a lot of policymakers. I mean, there was you or special interest groups. Why was that important for this?
I think it was important that farmers, you know, meet, have a discussion with themselves, figure out this, and give us suggestions. You know, we're sitting in Montpelier. We don't have all the answers. But they were there. They were giving us suggestions of what they think might be possibilities. We don't have a firm plan yet of what we're going to do from those suggestions, but they were there. Lenders were there. People involved in protecting land were there. Water quality people were there, which is part of the conversation. So everyone was in the room at the same time, which I think was important, and they were all talking with each other about possible solutions here.
Well, and a lot of people always look to Washington, and you've been pretty candid about that's not the place to look right now. Do you expect any substantive support from Washington at this point, or we really have to look somewhere else?
I think we have to look at both places. I think we've got a two-pronged approach right now. We're looking at can we change legislation in Washington that will give farmers a different way of how they're paid, and we're looking at a growth management plan right now. And the Vermont Milk Commission has been meeting over the last year, and that's an independent body. I'm a member of it. We have farmers on it. We have consumers on it, and they're looking at a situation where we need to somehow get the control of how much milk we're producing, if we can control that. So we're looking at a two-tiered pricing system where farmers would be, have a base amount of milk they could produce. They would be paid a higher level here, and maybe they could produce another level down here and want to be paid a lower price to that. So it's a two-pronged approach. So we do have to look at the federal government for an answer, for a long-term solution. But with the summit, we were looking at maybe some short-term strategies in Vermont that we could focus on.
But you also had people from New York and maybe even in New Hampshire there. I know we've looked at regional solutions before. Were you looking at regional, and what can be done that way?
Yeah, it was great to have. We had the New York Commissioner of Agriculture with us for the summit. We had farmers from New York. We had farmers from New Hampshire, also Connecticut. And, we do have to look at coalition building. So if Vermont can do something, would New York come along with us? New Hampshire come along with us? So we're trying to build that. Folks from Wisconsin were at the summit, and as you know,
they lost like 600 or 700 farms.
Same situation. That's what's a little bit different about this situation than in the past. Every region is in trouble. We're not in past. It could be region versus region, state versus state. Right now, across the board, everyone seems to be in this decline, and that could bring us all together under one voice
because of a glut of milk. So fewer
Absolutely.
Farms, more milk.
And farmers are doing a fantastic job of production, but the situation is we're in about 15 to 16% of our milk is exported. So any little tweak there, here or there, with tariffs and so forth, that can impact it. So yes, too much milk, and that's what's kept the price down low.
So in advance of the summit, you were saying you wanted actionable, timely, and responsive solutions. I know you're still kind of going through everything that you've collected from there, but is there anything that you see that pops up?
Well, what we did at the end of the summit is the farmers and all the people at the summit got together, sat down, and met for a couple of hours, and they wrote down their suggestions, what they learned from the summit. We had folks from New Zealand and Missouri talking about could we transition more farmers into grass. Grassland Dairies was there. It may not be the perfect model for everybody because of our climate, but there may be some opportunities there. We had artisan cheesemakers there. Would they possibly buy more milk directly from our farmers if they were met some certain requirements for that milk being delivered and give them a premium? That was there as well. We talked about the diversification with goat dairies. That was a possibility. We talked about the environment, and could farmers look at a model where if they are gold standard with the environment, could they be given incentives and could they be given payments for their ecosystems and how they're helping with soil health, et cetera. So those things all were discussed. Over the next few weeks, we hope to have some real actionable items and take ownership of those. It may not be the Agency of Agriculture, it may be other folks, but I think at the end of the day, we just didn't want to meet. At the end of the day, we really wanted to meet, make suggestions, and then act on those. And I think that's important because we've all been to enough meetings and nothing comes of it. We really need to act here and get to ourselves to a better place.
So you might have some short-term, long-term, and
absolutely
solutions here. So as a consumer, how can I help?
I think you need to support your farmer, you need to support your neighbor, buy Vermont products, buy dairy, look in your dairy case, check on your neighbor. I think that's important. Support them in any way you can, visit with them, talk with them. Buy Vermont dairy, you can see it. We have, that's one wonderful thing Vermont has, is a strong brand. It's all built on quality. And anything you can do to support your dairy farmer would be most helpful during this really difficult time.
Know the code.
The code, yes, number 50. Dairy products, you know it comes from Vermont, number 50.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's very cool. You're not looking for the made in Vermont, but the 50 means
look for number 50.
It's made right here.
Came from Vermont.
Awesome. I need to stop here because we're just out of time. Thank you so much, Anson, for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
For more information about agriculture in Vermont or to contact Secretary Tebbetts, check the website on your screen. It's agriculture.vermont.gov. That's agriculture.vermont.gov. You can also call the number 802-828-2430. Thanks again for coming in, and thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard.